And once again, I am glad to welcome dear subscribers and guests of the channel. Once after my video, which was dedicated to anonymity on a smartphone, there were quite a lot of questions in the comments. Then why do I need a phone if I can't use a SIM card and cellular communication? But in the beginning, it's worth warning everyone that the phone is not initially meant as an anonymous device. And even those technological solutions from some companies like Phones from Purism cannot provide you with 100% privacy. Since if you use a SIM card or connect to mobile communication towers, then one way or another you are identified as a user or subscriber, that is, a certain base station of a cellular provider receives your identifier, and with this identifier, you can track your movement around the city, and by means of moving between base stations. At the same time, you can even not insert a SIM card, however, you can already track yours completely. That is why in modern smartphones, the battery is not removable, that is, you will first have to disassemble the entire phone to pull the battery out of it. All in order to make it easier to track you. Even when the device is turned off, the corresponding signals will be given since the battery will be inside the phone. In addition, if you insert a SIM card into your phone, then firstly, malicious software with a closed code is installed inside each SIM card. No one knows the full functionality of this software except the manufacturers of this software themselves. And the manufacturers of this software are just the same cellular operators, and the purpose of the SIM card that they make is subscriber identification. For example, you insert your phone's SIM card and see that you have various applications like billing services, Megafon and the like. These are malicious software pre-installed on your SIM card, the purpose of which is to identify you. You may not even use it, do not call anyone, nothing, but the malicious software will already be on your device. The next thing you know, for example, what vulnerability you open to an outside observer of your smartphone is that your device receives a SIM card and receives corresponding vulnerabilities, for example, the same recently disclosed vulnerability of a SIM jack, and this theoretically opens up the possibility of obtaining full access over your device. And there are actually quite a large number of such vulnerabilities, and if you use a SIM card, then your phone can no longer be considered an anonymous device in any way, and that is, if you don't know why you need a phone without a SIM card, then you don't know why you need an anonymous phone at all. What is it all about? If you need a device for anonymous use, but you need calls using a SIM card, these are two completely different and unrelated things. However, it is possible to implement calls that will be relatively anonymous while you will not use a SIM card. And this path is just the way of AI-Pi telephony, or in AI-Pi, voice over AI-Pi. That is, your calls will be made viaduct the internet. Actually, through the internet, you can firstly encrypt your call, and secondly, you can practice your traffic, and the outgoing opponent, that is, who you are calling, will not know who called them, someone on the way will not intercept your signal. And all this will be quite anonymous, and will not violate our privacy. Voice over IP telephony has a large number of protocols and implementations. I will not quote Wikipedia to you now, and will just leave the appropriate links in my Telegram. I will tell you about examples of the work of certain programs that can be more or less trusted, and certain subtleties of working viaduct internet telephony. The first thing you should pay attention to is who exactly you will be communicating with. If you want to call a regular number, the technology is done so that you use voice and PI telephony to call a specific server that redirects your call to a specific, for example, the same SIM card. And from this SIM card it is called to the number you need. How is a certain concealment of the actual location of the subscriber achieved? But there are certain nuances that need to be taken into account. That is, if you call and speak in your real voice, the call is made from one SIM card to another via a regular cellular operator. The mobile operator is connected to the system of operational search measures. This system analyzes all the voices that call on various phones. Voice biometrics for almost all people who used phones or who were near those people, and the biometrics of your voice have already got to certain servers. And when you call a regular SIM card via internet telephony and start saying something in your usual voice, it is not very difficult for the relevant structures to identify you. Currently, there are even neural networks that can make up your portrait based on the impression of your voice, and they only need 6 seconds of test recordings in order to reproduce this portrait. And by the way, all these guys who are filmed in masks on YouTube and say that they are very anonymous. In fact, for the relevant office, this is all kindergarten. And it is not difficult to reproduce a person's appearance by means of his voice alone. The only way when you can use your voice is that you are calling via internet telephony to the same internet telephony service, and you know that both your devices are absolutely clean and confidential. If you are not sure that your devices are not compromised, or if you need to call through internet telephony to ordinary numbers, then you should just use an artificial voice or use someone else's voice, and preferably a person who cannot find you in any way and does not have any identifiers to somehow to contact you. In this way, they will come out to him, but they will not be able to come out to you in any way. Considering even these factors, it goes without saying that it is somewhat irrational to use internet telephony for calls on a regular SIM card. Internet telephony is sometimes needed if you are communicating between two already trusted participants in advance, whose devices are not compromised by default, and their goals imply some kind of rapid interaction. That is, it can be, for example, some kind of interaction inside a computer game or the need for quick coordination during hostilities. Well, things like that. There are many systems for such implementations, and each of them has its pros and cons. I put in the appropriate links to compare most of the popular voice over AI PI systems. I would like to highlight those that are worth paying closer attention to. This is the Talks service, which is a rather promising solution. With it, you can tunnel your traffic through the Tor network, thereby obtaining the concealment of your IP address. There are different implementations for different operating systems, including for phones, for computers. There are also many functions in addition to voice over AI PI, and actually the whole code is open and promotes convenient use. Also, a good service that is worth paying attention to is the Lin background. This is the Jitsi service, and this is the Ring service. Of course, there are certain nuances that some of them require registration on certain servers, and everything starts to rest on trust in the server. Separately, I would like to show such an implementation of internet telephony as Mumble. And in particular, in this video, I would like to demonstrate the installation of a Mumble server inside the Tor network for the Unix operating system. For those who do not remember, let me remind you that the Unix operating system consists of two virtual machines, one of which is the gateway to the Tor network, and the second actually seems to be working. The first thing we need to do is to create a service on a machine that is a gateway, that is, the Unix GET is yours. To do this, we enter the appropriate values in the file at the address user locale etc. talk.d in the file 50user.conf. By the way, I will also leave all the instructions in the Telegram, so don't worry if you don't have time. After that, we need to restart the Tor service. The next step is to find out which address inside the domain on the onion was given to us. To do this, we will go to the varlib Tor folder. There we will find the Mumble service, and in the hostname file, our actual address will be indicated. That is why all clients will connect to our server at the neon address, so we can save it separately. Then, we need to switch to the workstation system. In it, we make changes to the firewall. That is, we open the port on which the connection will take place. Since the entire server itself will be installed on the org station machine, we specify the same port that we specified in the configuration of our Tor service on the gateway machine. After that, we restart our firewall. Then, we update our repositories and install the Mumble service. After that, we need to set the configuration of our service. To do this, we just need to answer a number of questions. Then, we need to set a password to connect to the server. We specify a more complicated password and not the same as the video. The video shows the password just for example. After that, we restart our Mumble service. After that, our server itself will be ready to work. All we have to do is install the Mumble client and connect to our server. There are different clients for different operating systems. All of them are open source, and if you connect from a third-party client, that is, from another device or from another machine, then in the position of the address of our server, we indicate our own domain that we generated. Do not forget to pass our traffic through the Tor network, otherwise we will not succeed. And if we are going to create a client inside the Unix operating system itself, then we simply connect using the local host, that is 127.0.0.1, and in the port position, we indicate the port that we actually indicated all this time to mom. After we have connected to the server, we will be notified that we have a self-signed certificate, since we generated it ourselves, and then we can go directly to communication. And thus, we have an encrypted IP telephony service, which is located inside the Tor network. Everything is completely under our control, both the client and the server, and we can be sure of the confidentiality of our communication. The only thing you should always remember when working with voice over AI is that if you use your voice, then you must be sure that all the devices involved in the conversation are not compromised in any way and cannot get your biometric identifiers, otherwise there can be no question of anonymity, of course. I would also like to remind you that for those who have the opportunity to support the project, the relevant details are in the description. Good luck to you in anonymizing your calls. But that's it for today, and thanks for watching the end.